Well, hey.
Hi.
Shadster.
Hi.
Hey, look at you over there. I'm over here.
I know, we
This is
switched
so
it up.
weird.
We'll try it.
God. What are we doing? It took us a good extra 5 minutes to set up for this show, right? Because we didn't know our left from our right anymore.
It's okay.
It's so weird.
Apparently,
And now you're going to have to look this way to look at me.
it's so rough. That's okay. Welcome, everybody.
This is my good side.
We got a special edition of the Candid Athletic Training podcast. We're gonna try something new here. So a couple weeks ago, somebody on social media, heaven forbid, social media is a vehicle. You can use it for good. You can use it for bad. Mm-hmm. Somebody said we need to have a discussion about what it is like to be a mom as an athletic trainer. So we said, yeah, sure, we'll try it.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do tonight. We've got a couple moms who are going to join us in just a minute, and we're going to kind of talk to them about what it's like. And hopefully, if you're listening to the show and you're an athletic training student or you were thinking about getting into the profession, this is going to be an opportunity for you to get a real feel for what it's like. So we're kind of excited. We're gonna just try something a little bit different. We don't do a ton of interviews, so we'll see how this goes tonight. All right.
Absolutely.
So
I love that you brought up the students, because I think there's so much of this profession is so driven by, oh God, I love being here. And then there's this slow dwindle for a lot of professionals that, maybe I need to get out of this profession. Well, we're hopefully going to give you some examples of people that have probably gone through that roller coaster of emotion of the profession, and let's see how it goes. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of what you're saying is you have an expectation and maybe you're not sure. You don't know what you don't know. And so hopefully here's an opportunity to learn what you don't know, and you can ask more questions.
You said that so eloquently.
I don't know.
Spell eloquently.
Nope. Not a chance. So before we bring on our fantastic moms, let's just thank our sponsors real quick. So obviously we're going to start with Healthy Roster, the official sponsor of the show. If you are looking for a new EMR, you should definitely check them out at healthyroster.com. They're just the best. So we appreciate everything they do for us. So thanks to Healthy Roster. Also, we've got smart tools that we've been working with. You can get 10% off any BFR or any soft tissue, scraping devices, if that's what you want to call it. You can use the code CANDID10. And then lastly, thanks to Human Kinetics, 20% off any continuing education course by using the code CANDIDCEU. So they've got online courses. They've got books if you prefer to read. They got a lot of different things that they can do. So thanks to them. So, I mean, I don't have anything else to start the show. Do you have anything you want to?
I got nothing. Let's bring on some very important guests.
Okay, let's bring on our friend Abby.
Hi, Abby.
Abby.
Hi, guys.
Welcome to the show. Why don't you tell them, the listeners, the people on the live stream and the people who will be listening later, who you are. Tell them a little bit about your mom's situation, your kids, how many you have, what their names are. Tell how long you've been in the profession and what setting you work in.
Okay. My name is Abby Denon. I've been an athletic trainer since 1995. I have 3 kids. This is Evelyn, my middle child. Victor.
Hi, Evie.
Evie and Victor.
Get down, Victor.
Hi,
Victor's
Vic.
16.
Too tall. You're too tall, Victor.
Yeah, Victor. She's 14, and then I have Charlie. She's 12, but she's taking a shower right now.
Whoa. Not safe for podcasting.
Yeah, right. Well, it's for me, really. So I've been at a middle school since 2006. When Victor was 4 months old, I switched from the high school level down to the middle school level so I could still be a traditional athletic trainer and be a mom at the same time.
Okay, great. All right, let's see who's up next. On my docket, we have Jen. So Jen
Yep.
Kruger,
Yes.
why don't you just introduce yourself and kind of go through the same spiel, who you are, who your family is, and then your setting and how long you've been in the profession.
So my name's Jen Kruger, and I have a 10-year-old daughter that's like involved in everything. She's a Girl Scout. She plays softball and volleyball and basketball. So I call myself a mom chauffeur. I'm like just driving her around a lot of places in the evening. I work at the University of Nebraska Lincoln's Injury Prevention and Care in the Campus Rec Center. So we're a small but mighty group. We have 2 full-times and a GA, but then we have a staff of 30 first aid students that help us, and we cover 33 sport clubs, a whole bunch of intramurals, and then just general population that comes into our rec. And then I work on the side a little bit for a local orthopedic group. And then I'm involved in our state athletic training association. I'm the vice president. So
All right.
I keep myself busy.
All right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lastly, let's bring on.
We think we're busy.
I know. Let's bring on Tanya. Tanya McKinney. Go ahead and let us know who you are.
I'm Tanya McKinney. I am in Abilene, Texas. I have one daughter. She is 18, and she graduated high school last year. And I have been in athletic training for 27 years now.
Rock on.
So, yeah. So I work in the clinical setting, and I transitioned to the clinic when my daughter was born, so 18 years ago. I decided to leave the traditional high school setting when she was born. My husband and I were both, very busy. He's not in any way, shape, or form involved in high school, secondary setting, but he does have a job that is very demanding. And we were living in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area, and so our family didn't have any family support to help out. So we had, decided that 80-hour work weeks was not conducive to family life. So we left the traditional setting and moved back home to Abilene, and I was able to get on at the clinic where I have been now for 18 years. So I work for an orthopedic. Well, I worked specifically for an orthopedic at his clinic, and then he works in an orthopedic group. I worked for that specific orthopedic, and then I did outreach also for a small 2A high school, and then recently this year, or this last August, I transitioned into clinic manager. And so I no longer work specifically for that doctor. I work for, the whole clinic. But, and then since she graduated high school, I have gone back to grad school since I wasn't busy enough, now that I'm not chasing my 18-year-old around. So I'm going back to grad school for healthcare management, and so I'm doing office manager now, and still doing outreach for it's a different high school. Now I was with the same high school. I was with Holly High School for 17 years, and I'm now with Merkel High School, which is a 3A high school. because we're working on trying to get full-time athletic trainers into with the co-op with our hospital now into these smaller schools.
Love it.
And so my high school that I was with was one of the high schools that we were able to put a full-time athletic trainer in. So that's been a great program that our clinic has been able and our hospital has been able to start.
So in Texas,
unfortunately for me, I lost my high school.
in Texas, is the 1A, is that the small schools or the big schools?
The small.
Okay,
So, yes,
in Wisconsin, 1A is like the big schools here. So it's I always have to ask.
exactly.
Yeah, we do Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, kind of like college.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6A is the
A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
All right, I got a real quick hit question for all of you, and then we'll get into some hard hitting stuff. What's cleaner, your work setting or your home setting?
Work.
Work setting's cleaner.
Work setting.
Work setting. Jen?
Work setting.
Oh, this is a clean sweep. I thought maybe we'd have. All right, that's not what I was expecting.
Do you think other than your household?
I feel like at home I clean, but you can't tell because it's a kid disaster. As soon as like you get one area clean, then another pile appears. It's like
Totally
magic.
right. Absolutely.
Oh,
all I do is pick up after them.
My husband is a much better house cleaner than I am. It's because he's there more than I am.
Good for
and
you.
So he takes, he's I hit the jackpot when I married him. So
don't tell my wife.
And don't make sure he doesn't see this. You don't want his head getting too big.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I tell him on a regular basis.
Well, you're kind.
I kind of want to start this conversation because we're trying to use this for others to learn. I kind of want to start chronologically here. So let's talk about being a mom during pregnancy.
Yeah.
Like what's like, what are the physical challenges? What are the mental challenges? Like, is it more physical? Is it more mental? Talk about like when you were pregnant and being in AT. How did that experience go for each of you?
I know that for me, it was challenging being in a traditional setting while pregnant, especially with number 2 and number 3. Working football and 8 months pregnant is not fun. But it was also a time in the clinic when I was pregnant with Victor, and that posed a lot of challenges with my first pregnancy because I know your body's crazy pregnant, know that they sat on your bladder all day long and would punch your bladder in the middle of working with patients. That was awesome. It was definitely a challenge, but my last pregnancy was the hardest since she was born during football season. And the other ones were spring babies, so it was a little easier on me. Oh, look, there she is.
There she is.
Football player, that's Charlie. You smell very nice. Yeah, I just got out of the shower. But being pregnant was hard, but it was worth it, totally.
Abby, how late did you work in your pregnancy? Did you go like straight up to the due date?
I went all the way. For Victor, I went all the way up until 3 weeks before I was due. Sure. I went all the way with hers because she was born in June. And then I went on bed rest with 5 weeks left with her.
Way to go. Way to go, number 3.
Charlie, yay!
Jen, what was your experience like?
I was working in a secondary school setting at that time, and I just have to give credit to my coaches because they were great. They made the athletes help carry stuff at the time. The year before, there had been like 2 of us, and the one lady had phased into more of the teaching position because she's also was an athletic trainer with kids and was kind of phasing herself into some different opportunities. And so I had some part-time help, but not a whole lot. And so the students were great. The coaches were great. I actually broke my ankle like during football season while pregnant. And so I was like walking around in a boot. And so I don't know. I'm super appreciative for the help. It was hard. Like, I don't know, just the mental load and all that sort of stuff. But honestly, I worked up to 6 hours before I had my daughter. Like, I was working a reserve or JV basketball game. And the coaches were just laughing. Both of them were dads. And they're like, why are you still here? And I'm like, well, the baby isn't here yet. So I'm still working. And so I was like, I literally remember lifting up a 10-gallon cooler of water. Like,
Oh my
what
God.
am I doing at the end of the game? And so you just do what you do. I don't know. You just do what you do. And then I was supposed to get induced the next day, and she had other plans and came in like a bull in a china shop. So like that kind of.
That's incredible.
That is incredible. Is there any more definition of an athletic trainer than a 9-month pregnant mom to be carrying coolers, covering, was it a JV basketball game?
Yes.
And Tanya, what about you?
So Bree was born in August, so I was
good timing
in that. Yeah, exactly. There was some planning that went into that. A little bit. So I was off. Kind of off because we also did, they did, the summer program. So we had kind of I worked a little bit during the summer, but it wasn't, too bad. It was just kind of a couple of hours, during the day, covering like their conditioning and stuff. So I didn't have to do a whole lot during the later months of, the pregnancy. But, up until July, I worked at Mesquite Horn at the time, and had up until July we weren't really sure what we were going to do yet, whether we were coming back to Abilene or staying there, and so we're still planning on staying up there. So it's still going to work, all the time, still going to work every day, still, going through all the motions. So we had help, I was all the way up through, through the whole pregnancy, working and going through and doing all the things. I was relatively lucky in my pregnancy, with Bree, in that, didn't really have very much morning sickness, didn't have a whole lot of any of that stuff. And so
no broken ankles.
No broken ankles, thankfully.
Good.
She was really easy. The only issue that I had with her is she was 9 days late. And so
stubborn.
Yeah.
The Texas heat.
And still is. Yeah. And to this day is still very stubborn. So she so and when we did have all the the coaches were all great and helping carry things, lift things, take things. When I did get to the later months, they didn't want to let me didn't want me to have to do anything. I remember as I got toward the end, because my baseball team did go to playoffs, and so kind of toward the end, I was in that later part of June, when they were in the later part of playoffs. I remember sitting on the sideline, and one of my student trainers, or there's a kid that went down at second base, and I'm like, all right, you run out there, and if it's really bad, wave at me, and I'll waddle out there, and and I'll come out, otherwise, I'll walk out there. And,
yeah.
And
waddle.
Gotta learn somehow.
If I gotta waddle quickly, then wave at me. Otherwise, I'll walk out there. And
so are there other things when you guys are pregnant that you have to modify? Like, is it like taping counters? Is it like, do you have to avoid certain special tests or different stretches? Or like, are you guys just kind of work around it as best as you can? And Abby's saying no modifications.
No, I didn't modify anything. That I had.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if ergonomically something has to change.
I didn't really modify anything, but I did have to, like, somebody had a head and neck injury when I was like 8 months pregnant and in the wrestling room. And so I couldn't get down and hold C-spine.
Yeah.
And so I just told the kid not to move, and I sat next to him while we waited for EMS. And so then the coaches just kept everybody clear. But
just thinking athletic training horror stories, you're holding C-spine in your water breaks or something like something
I think that'd
bad.
be worse
I
for
don't
the
know.
kid
That would
than
be
for the athletic trainer.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I feel like I have to like alter how I tape, even if I just have a really large pizza,
big lunch,
let alone a whole child growing inside of me. Although
I have to say, the lady I worked with, she would have her little carrier and she would bring her kids in and she would be taping and doing everything. I was like, I wasn't that talented. Like my daughter would come to work sometimes with me, but I found it distracting. So she didn't always come. But my coworker, she was a champ. Like she could multitask like no other. So.
Well, I'm sure you're not giving yourself enough credit. I'm sure she
Yeah,
has also said, holy crap, she did so much when she was pregnant. And
except for those last 5 hours.
Yeah, except for the last 5 hours.
It's like, the belly grows over, it's a 9-month process. So you get accustomed to those ergonomics. So you're gradually adjusting the whole time. So it's not like all of a sudden, bam, you got this, basketball out in front of you. So you adjust to it as the child, growing.
And how much adjusting did you have to do in terms of like schedules and appointments and ultrasounds and checkups and stuff like that? Is it depend on the time, the due date, or I mean, is it not a major adjustment at all?
I didn't have any issues scheduling around the job at all. It's like I would schedule an appointment now. I'd work around whatever my work hours are.
Sure.
Since I was clinic outreach to the high school, I had my mornings off, so
Gotcha.
I could just schedule appointments in the morning.
Heck yeah.
Tanya, any issues for you?
It was just whenever you like scheduling any other normal appointment, you just try to work around the most convenient times, and then if you can't, you just can't, and they just work around it.
Yeah. Okay, so then after delivery, like let's
dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, like
baby's here.
Is it pretty
Get
standard?
To work right.
How much time did you take? I mean, was it like I think here in Wisconsin it's 12 weeks? Is that everywhere?
I took 12 weeks because I had the C-section, but I was off all summer because my first two were spring babies, so I was ready to roll when school started and football started back up. Charlie was my accidental right? Wow.
Whoops.
At the end of October, so that was a challenge.
Still love you, Charlie.
It was
no matter what.
I didn't call you an accident. You kind of this is accident. She's screaming at me from the other room. She screamed. I did not plan that one out very well. Clearly. Was I an accident? No, you were not planned out very well. Jeez.
An accidental greatness in her life.
That's right. You're my miracle. Right.
I only took 6 weeks off.
6 weeks, Jen.
Well, so a lot of times you hear 12 weeks. A lot of that's FMLA, so it's unpaid.
Right. Yeah.
And so I used up whatever vacation that I had, and then I went on short-term disability, and that's when that ran out. So it was either go unpaid or go back to work, which honestly, I was excited to go back to work. I'm probably like, I know all the moms that are like, oh, I can't leave my kid or whatever, but like she slept all the time. So That newborn phase, like they sleep, they eat, whatever. Once you get into that routine, you just get used to it enough for it to change. I'm sure you with the 3-month-old has probably figured that out. But I needed some adult interaction.
Yeah.
So I was like, it was Millie and I watching Jeopardy every day, like while she's snoozing in the little rocker thing. So
did you ever win Jeopardy while you were watching? I hope you did.
I'm so bad at it.
I'm a Jeopardy nerd.
I feel so bad about myself watching Jeopardy. God.
Oh my gosh. I could never
Celebrity
win Jeopardy.
Jeopardy is the best.
Yeah.
The best. The best in
A
my
little bit easier.
Yes.
Tanya, how much time did you take off?
Well, so Brie was born in the middle of August, so I took 6 weeks off from clinic because I had transitioned to the clinic.
Yeah, you had just started.
But I also started back to just covering Friday night football at probably I probably went back to doing that at like 3 weeks.
At 3 weeks? So just like one day a week for 3 weeks, and then at 6 weeks you went back full time?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Texas Friday football is big.
Yeah.
She said,
but I was
clear eyes, full heart. Can't lose.
But it was a choice too. I mean, it was, it wasn't, they didn't twist my arm.
Sure. By all means, I know a lot of moms that said, I can't wait to get back to work. Not necessarily because you're sick of your kid, Charlie, you in the background. But I think we identify a little bit with our job, right? And we love also helping others. And so I think I'm not surprised at all from an athletic trainer that's, deep inside you and your soul that you wanted to come back to work. I think it's great. I think everybody's different. And so I think there's every single parenthood, transition is different. And so good for you guys. Yeah. Hopefully that was the right decision for you and your family, and it worked out well,
So then when you decided to go back to work, what was the childcare situation? Like what worked for you guys? Like, is it,
With Victor, I at first used a daycare facility, but that wasn't very long because it was really expensive. So we ended up using a family friend who did childcare out of her home. We worked with her for Victor and for Evie. When Charlie was born, I did switch down to part-time just for a little bit because they were in school and I could go be a room mom and do some other things. But I still spent all the time at the school. But childcare was expensive in the daycare facility. So it was really nice to have my parents help with a day. My in-laws took a day. And then a family friend helped us for a couple days a week as well.
That's nice.
And Jen?
So when Millie was first born, the day before she was born, my husband interviewed for a different job. And so he's a sports director in the news. So he's a second shifter. And so I was in secondary school, kind of second shift. And he applied for a different job in a different city and got the job. And so when we first started, we did the 6 weeks maternity leave. Then I had 2 student aides that had graduated from high school and then were in college that would kind of watch Millie in that like afternoon and evenings when I went to work. And they would either come to my house or they would come to the school and either pick her up there or just hang out in the training room and like watch her. But I paid them. So that way they were getting some help with like school and that sort of stuff. And, but I remember one of our ADs at one point coming, I wish I could bring my kid to school. And I was kind of like, oh, did anybody tell you that you couldn't? Like, I don't know what I was like. And the girl was literally picking my daughter up and leaving to go put her in the car to take her. She wasn't even really staying. So for the most part, they were pretty good about if you had to bring your child to work or whatever. But then within my husband getting that job, so within 6 months of my daughter being born, we each got new jobs. And then we like had previously bought a house at like the September before she was born. She was born in January. Moved 60 miles away back home where my family was and started a new job, bought and sold a house, lived in my parents' basement for like 6 months, and then got another house. Like,
And so that's
talk about
Love
hitting
it.
all the
Love
life things. It was a lot.
2012 was good for you,
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
You said she's 10?
Gosh, a little stressful, yeah. 2012.
Holy
yeah.
cow.
Jen, I
And
love it.
so,
I love you.
Total
you did
upheaval.
Look at you. You're upright and you are killing life. I mean,
She hit the reset button.
oh, I love it.
there might have been a lot of like stressed out tears in certain moments because I'm like, you still have the baby and the hormones and like all that going all crazy, but it was a lot. And
That's so much.
it does take a village. It does take a
does.
village. And I was fortunate, kind of like Abby, that then I had a family friend who happened to be retiring, and she took my daughter in and for 5 years was our childcare. And she hardly even charged us any money. So we like lucked out, hit the lottery. But she's like a second grandma to, well, probably a billion grandmas. She has a lot of grandmas, but she's another grandparent in my daughter's life. So
Look at that.
And Tanya, what was your return to work situation?
So my husband's business, or the company that he worked for when we were up in the Metroplex, when we were trying to decide, are we going to stay up here? Are we going to move, back home? Because both of our families are from Abilene. We're going back and forth. And at the time, I hadn't been able to find anything, athletic training wise in Abilene. This was still, in June before I'd had her. And, we were, it was kind of contingent on me finding a job because he was going to be able to transfer his job. Couldn't find anything. Did a lot of soul searching, did a lot of praying, and nothing had come of it. So we decided that we were just going to stay and just figure it out. Well, then come July, the company that he worked for, they terminated the contract with his company that he worked for, and his company was based out of Abilene that we're from. And so they said, well, you can either come back here to Abilene and work, or find a job there in Dallas, not with our company. So we're like, okay, we're going back to Abilene. So at that point we didn't have a choice. And so it was one of those, God's prayers answered, not particularly in the way that we wanted it to be, because all of a sudden I didn't have a job. His job was not exactly what he was doing where he was at. So we pack up and and move home, and I start calling every athletic trainer in town that I knew. It was like, I need a job. So the clinic that I work for currently, I had heard that they might be looking for an athletic trainer. They hadn't yet really started an outreach program.
Sure.
But they were looking to start an outreach program. And so I called them basically every day until they hired me. And
persistent.
So yes. And
then after they hired you, you called them twice a day. That's Shawshank Redemption. Sorry.
Pretty much. It was like, and by the way, I'm 7 months pregnant. So so then once we had Bree, I did the 6 weeks off, and then we got the childcare through one of the church daycare services, but then they didn't have, they always have a wait list. And so, both our families were in Abilene. And so my mom, she worked kind of some evenings. His mom was still working full time. So kind of piecemealed daycare until we could get her into, they watched her until we could get her into the daycare.
Yeah.
And then for evenings, for while we were during football, while I was doing the coverage, once I started doing the outreach stuff, so I worked full time, 40 hours in the clinic, and then the outreach contract was on top of that, so it was game coverage. And initially, like her first couple of years, I only worked Friday night football.
Sure.
And then so she she stayed, her father parented her, while I was, working. And we don't say that he babysat her, because he is a father, and so he parented her.
Parented.
Yes, and that's and for fathers, that is a highly contested. I don't know if you guys, if that gets you, that is a.
I don't babysit. I don't parenthood. I just try to I just hold on for dear life. That's all I do. I do my best. I hope I did everything fine. You know what? He smiles when mom comes home, and so therefore I'm happy.
Absolutely.
Well, he would get, oh my gosh, because people would, as a mom, like when I would go to games, like they would ask my husband, they're like, so you're babysitting? Or they would, or they would ask, who's babysitting, Bree, or, and he's like, she's my child. I'm not babysitting my own child. She's
no.
It would offend him to no end. I'm like, as it should,
I love it.
He's parenting her. It's his job, and
heck yeah.
And he's amazing at it. And so,
God, he better not be watching this, because she is complimenting him left and right. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. What's your husband's name?
Frank.
Frank, you're one of the good ones.
Thanks
apparently.
for making us look bad, Frank.
Dang it, Frank. Knock it down a notch, all right? Oh. Jeez. You know what? One thing I've heard is, according to Jen, we all need one extra grandparent. If we all have one extra grandparent, I think
lots of grandparents.
Life could be a little better. Just one more squeeze of a kid. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like it. Find yourself another grandparent.
Random grandparents.
You look like a nice person. Man. Come on over.
Hey.
Oh, jeez. We got another one.
This is Millie.
Hi, Millie.
Millie, nice to meet you. Welcome to the Candid Athletic Training Podcast.
You're in Canada now?
Candid.
Yeah, we're in Canada, basically.
Sorry, I have a Wisconsin accent. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Closer than we are.
So, I'm gonna just ask this, and feel free to answer or not answer if you don't want to.
What if it's radio silence? Are we gonna?
No, that's okay. We'll just move on. So, did anybody have any problems with postpartum and going back to work? Any issues with that, or was it all like, "Hey, let's go"?
I was, "Hey, let's go." I mean, but I bring in my kids with me a lot of evenings to the school, so it was just, let's roll. I never had any depressive issues or separation issues because they never leave me.
Yeah, I just know that can be an issue for some women, and I'm just curious if, yeah.
I mean, I'd say I was lucky that I didn't have issues.
Yeah, I didn't have it so much like as far as like separation anxiety from Bree. I think I felt it more like I did feel initially kind of like a disconnect from like just from everything else. Like I felt like just between work and the mom stuff, and then the the being, from working and being a mom and then doing the outreach and just the go. I think it was the being a wife part that I think is where I maybe felt some of that postpartum stuff.
Sure.
And
I know,
it took,
no, go ahead. Sorry.
There was some deep conversations that my husband and I had, that we kind of had, that we had to kind of work through. And it wasn't until later, kind of going back, maybe, 6-8 months after the fact, that I was able to look back at that and say, I think that was postpartum. It was, I didn't recognize it going through it. But I think looking back at it, I was able to recognize, that that's what that was. And it took my husband saying, hey, you come home from work and, you change out of your clothes and it's 5 o'clock and you put your jammies on, and, or it's 7 o'clock and you put your jammies on and, and that's all you do.
Yeah.
And so, and it's, and you focus on the kid and, and we haven't had a conversation in, 2 months. And so, it took some real, conversations and him, being honest with me and me being receptive of it, to kind of get through that part of it.
Frank and Tanya are like who everybody should look at, huh? I mean, that seems like a really strong relationship right there.
Well,
Holy cow.
I know my wife is a stay-at-home. I mean, and Bennett's 2 now, and I know one of her biggest issues, and still, 2 years later, is like you lose a sense of identity almost, or your roles. Your role changes, and it's like, what hat am I wearing at what time? And like for my wife, she stays at home, so she lost her career. She gave that up, and she has to focus on this other thing. And like you guys were mentioning, sometimes you need adult interaction, and she's just babbling with a 6-month-old or a 2-year-old. It's like she craves some real adult interaction, and I think that can be a challenge.
I think you lose your identity a little bit when you first become a mom, because it's all new and it's all the stuff and it's ever changing. And then you got to kind of find yourself again. And not necessarily that means that you're in a depressive state or whatever. It's just something new. And so it takes a while. But then also I feel like moms are like constantly running a to-do list in their head. Like, and it could even be compartmentalized. Like I have my work to-do list. I have my professional organization to-do list. I have my mom list. I have my stuff that needs to get done at home. And it's just like this never-ending list. And trying to like set your boundaries and know like I don't have to get it all done. It's not all going to get done in a day. And there's other things and people that look forward to your presence. And so I still struggle with that, because I'm always like, my brain's going 100 miles a minute and trying to get stuff done, and like, oh, I could be working on this or this or this, and being able to say, oh, nope, can't do that. But like, I do think it changes your identity, especially when you're a brand new mom. Like you're like the feeding machine a lot of times. And so
there's another
sometimes
I
literally like
that.
Yeah.
I felt like I was a cow. Like it was just literally you're feeding your child, which is what you're supposed to do, whether it's formula or breast milk or whatever, but like you're just on demand for them. And so it can be kind of exhausting, and like you got to kind of grow out of that and like adapt. And sometimes it's hard to like break pieces of you off for all the people that need you. So sometimes at the end of the day, I don't know, I just even feel like there's some downtime.
So that begs the question, how do you prioritize this career, like the career and the family life, like with as you're talking about the to-dos, the never ending to-dos, like how do you prioritize like going through that on a day-to-day or on a longer term?
I guess it depends on the day. Honestly, with my kids being older now, it's easier for me to prioritize what
Hold on,
needs
when
to
does it
happen.
get easy? I just asking for a friend.
Wait,
asking for two friends.
Just for two
when
friends.
when does it get
gets
easy?
when?
Maybe not easy, just different.
It wasn't terrible. I mean, I took Victor to football games with me, and I had him in the carrier on the sideline, and I just
In
made
the
it
huddle.
work that way. It's not. It's just how you can finagle things to work in your favor. I don't know that I could prioritize one over the other because I feel like I put so much of myself into my career and who I am in this profession that my kids have grown up in the building on my athletic fields. It's just part of who we are. I think I just prioritize keeping them happy, keeping my kids at the school taken care of, and then I deal with all the other stuff at home later.
Below the building, except for the second floor.
It's not my
Hold on,
fault.
say that again.
She's not been on the second floor of my building yet.
Because you won't let me on the second floor.
Oh, there's nothing up there.
Is that like where all the fun toys are?
Yeah.
No, it's just you never let me up there, and now I'm curious on what's up there.
It's the
It's
foreign
like
language.
the Normatec boots and the rehab.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just wants to see there are 2 high schools worth of kids in this building. So it's huge. It's a huge building. So I don't ever have a reason to go to the second floor. So why do I need to take them up there?
I just want to go
Oh, I'll
there.
take you up there tomorrow then. Fine. Holy
Yay.
cow.
Tomorrow. See, we make it happen.
See, this is what we do.
Yes.
Oh, I have to.
Walk to my school.
I have to
from
say,
where-
I have to say, I did kind of prioritize family. So a couple different things about that. Your wife's very fortunate that she can stay home with the kids, but I feel a lot of times in society it is like a 2-parent working home sometimes, or a single parent home. So we have to work to do that or whatever. But when I started out, it was a secondary school, and the hours are great, even because you have your mornings. Like sometimes you have your mornings, not like Tanya that's had to do the clinic and then go to outreach, but I had my mornings with my daughter. And then when I transitioned to campus rec, I originally was 1 to 10. So I had mornings with her. I got to go to do library time. I got to do, take her to preschool and help out with that sort of stuff. And then as she started kindergarten, I was able to transition first to a 10 to 7 and then later to an 8 to 5, because now she has all these after school activities and somebody has to get her there. So her dad still works second shift and actually is back up in the town that we were in initially. And so I am responsible for a lot of transportation and stuff. So I worked my work schedule so that I would be available to help get her where she needed to be. And I know I agree with Abby, though. This is the first year she's like staying home by herself. Sure. And just that load of not having to rush to get her from the after school program. She gets to come home. She gets to have a nap before she does her activities, get a snack. And then I get home and I take her to wherever it is that activities she's doing. So it is super helpful to have these different settings and stuff and be able to like change your time schedule if possible. So
yeah,
flexibility.
Charlie, go take a nap.
Charlie doesn't know what a nap is.
Last time you made me take a nap, which was over the weekend,
I did.
I was tired and upset at my basketball game.
That was a bad idea. I'm not letting her nap again.
I'm going to nap on the weekends when I'm alone and I get tired.
Yes, okay. You're so pretty.
Tanya,
Jen,
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to ask a question, Jen.
Yep.
So I mean, I have a lot of high school kids that come through my clinic, and even over the short, like 3 to 4 years that I've been like seeing more and more high school kids versus my previous career, holy crap, do high school kids do a lot of stuff.
Oh my God.
They're in a million different things. If it's not multiple sports, they also have 3 different tutors for ACTs. They also have this, they also have that. Like, being an athletic trainer, the schedule as an athletic trainer is very it needs to be adjusted on the fly sometimes.
Fluid.
It's fluid. Fluid is a very good term. Now, I mean, you were talking like you've kind of adjusted your schedule. I mean, what advice could you give to some young moms? Maybe they have the 8-9-year-old that like they're about to get to that age where they're in, I don't know, 10 different sports in all one season. That like you as an athletic trainer, how do you manage stuff like that? How do you manage their schedule with your schedule? Is the crux of the
so like I said, I'm very fortunate. So the work setting that I'm at, our actual hours are 6 a.m. till midnight most nights.
Okay.
And there's an athletic trainer in the building 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. on most nights. And so like I said, I initially started in that 1 to 10, and then I transitioned into that 8 to 5 role. I have to say that the location I'm at, we're very flexible with our hours. And even since COVID, it has gotten better that we can kind of flex our time. And they're not so much clock watchers as long as you're putting in your time.
Sure.
And so they also are supportive of us being a part of our professional organizations and that sort of thing. And our current director is big on family. So that's very helpful. That is not the same case in every situation.
Of course.
It could probably go across sometimes to athletics, and it's a completely different story. They do have some AT moms over there as well, and dads as well. But, I don't think you see the kids over there as often. I don't really have Millie at work at the university just because it's not that it's frowned upon, but it's kind of a last minute sort of deal. So what I do is she knows that I won't be at everything. So the other thing about kids being involved in everything she does a lot of club sports, and club sports are not cheap. Like they are expensive. And I was like, can't we all just go back to the Y or like
yes,
intramural type stuff?
Yes, please.
And so a lot of times I'll work stuff on the side to help pay for some of those activities. So she gets to do the things that she likes to do. I get to cover the sports that I like to cover. So I cover hockey for my job as a PRN because it's outside of my work hours. And then I cover some other stuff for that orthopedic hospital. I get to pick and choose what I work. So I try to work around her schedule. But like I said, grandparents are awesome if you have the availability of them. My husband and I are both from divorced parents. And so she has double the grandparents and they love to spoil her and they love to help where they can. And so if I can't get her to something and he's working because he has to be at the football game or something for sports for the news, then they pick up a lot of the extra. So I have to say it does take a village. So I know that it can be a struggle if you don't have that village. I know there's moms on Twitter and the AT Moms page on Facebook that they don't have that support system. My coworker that I used to work with, she was from Canada and ended up moving to Nebraska because she met her husband. And they didn't have as many like people that they could have. They were both athletic trainers. And when you're both athletic trainers, they were secondary school athletic trainers. Like they were having so many babysitters because someone had to pick up the kids. And there's like daycares don't usually run second shift. So it does make it a challenge. So you have to have those supportive work environments. And I hope COVID is making some of those things a reality. Just because when you make those comments of like, oh, I wish I could have my kids on the sideline, like sometimes we don't have a choice. Like you either want us to be there to work for your kids and make sure your kids are safe, but our kids also have to be safe. And so I think those flex schedules are really helpful. And I hope that becomes more of a trend. I don't know.
Love it.
Soapbox, sorry.
I'm also hearing, athletic trainers, men and women alike. I mean, don't be afraid to ask and like get help, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we put everything on ourselves. We try to take on the entire world. I mean, the moms are telling us right now. Everybody needs to think about what the heck did your mom tell you when you were a little kid? Like she was probably right. Moms are now telling us as adults, hey, try to get a little more support system. Ask for help. There's plenty of people out there that want to support you. You just have to ask, right? I like it.
Yeah.
And
You
it's
guys are
hard
awesome.
to not be able to do certain things with your kids. I mean, I'm fortunate that my kids eventually come through my building and are my athletes, but stop. You have to. They made me lose my train of thought. You have to be like any other working parent. I know my father was a police officer, worked a certain time frame and didn't get to do certain things with me because of his job, or my husband's parents worked and did certain things. So as an athletic trainer, you're still a working parent, and we still have to make compromises and sacrifices. But as long as you have a support system to help you and you're willing to compromise, you can do it. It's possible. I mean, I have 3 kids and I can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And look at her.
So bouncing off that, you say it's just like any other working parent, but what, as an athletic trainer, are there perks to it? Like what do you
benefits?
Yeah, what are the benefits of being an AT and having kids? Like,
Oh, well,
Do it. It's got to be some.
I like my kids come through the building. My son has been through the
yeah,
building.
Bree,
I love it.
Go for it, Tanya.
yeah. Hey, yeah, Bree went to Holly, where I was, the AT for her whole high school. Well, I mean, I was there for 17 years. And, so I was her athletic trainer. I mean, and she grew up, at that school. So she, was on the sideline, from, I started taking her, with me to things from, probably, 7, 8 years old, and kind of teaching her the ropes of, don't run on the field and, stay, I would take her to, JV stuff at first or freshman stuff at first and, gradually, introducing her to things before she, got to go to, the varsity stuff. But, we're taking her to like basketball before she got to go to, Friday night football stuff. She didn't get to go to Friday night football stuff with me, until she was probably 9, I think, before she got to go to be on the sideline with me on Friday nights. But she grew up, on the sidelines and in the gym and stuff and then, getting to be her athletic trainer and be there for the stuff. And, there was one time, I think she was probably, I don't know, 14 or 15, in one of those classic mom guilt moments that, we all get.
Never happens.
Yeah, I asked her if, I was like, if she ever felt like she was, did she feel cheated, that she didn't have the normal childhood of, the growing up. Did she feel like she missed out on opportunities because she was always at work with me, always on the sideline with me, instead
question.
of going and doing normal things with normal kids, with all the other kids? And she said no, she felt like she got to do stuff that other kids didn't get to do, and she, she felt, that it was, opportunities that she got to do that other kids didn't, because I remember when she got to the high school, like when she finally got to get, was walking around as a freshman, and she already knew,
Yeah.
the varsity football team,
Right.
because she was with me, and, and they're all coming up and high-fiving her and giving her hugs.
Heck
And,
yeah.
all the other little 9th grade girls are like, oh my God, Johnny, or whoever his name is. And, she's got clout,
Yeah.
because she already knows, the quarterback. And,
Heck yeah.
and so I remember that first day, I mean, she thought that, it was the best day ever. And so yeah, I mean, there's definitely perks of, of it, and getting to take her, and I spend more time with her than I probably would have gotten as a normal working mom.
Sure.
Because I got to take her to work with me a lot.
Jen?
I feel like being a mom has helped me like appreciate sports again, because like growing up I loved sports, and pretty much anybody from Nebraska is like a diehard Nebraska fan. It doesn't matter if we're good or bad or whatever, like it's pretty much like a cult sometimes. And so as I got into athletic training was my job, sports were my job, like you kind of like sometimes lose the love for it, like, and so it became a job for a while. And so I think for her, like for me having the schedule that I do and that I get to do the things that I do with her, I get to see her learn sports from the ground up and just that developmental phase. And each new step is like learning something new. But then like we can go to a college basketball game and I get to like teach her things about the sport and that sort of thing. So that makes it more enjoyable for me, because I always told her, I'm like, I watch sports completely different than you watch sports. Like I literally watch, it's hard to turn off that watching for injuries, making sure everybody's okay. So that like fan part of sports
gone.
It was kind of gone. And so now that she's enjoying sports and I get to like watch stuff kind of through her eyes, like it's kind of fun. And make sports more fun again. And then we can kind of pick the sports that we like to watch or whatever. And I just feel that like, just because like having two parents in sports, like it dictates a lot of your life. Like a coaching change happens and my husband has to drop everything and just go cover the news or whatever. And it frustrates me a little bit, or like seeing like the campus completely changing an academic schedule because football decided to practice at 10 in the morning instead of 2. Sure. Like that frustrates me, because what about all those other students? So like, I feel like the benefit from athletic training and the flexibility that I have, it hasn't like, I've been able to kind of regrow my love of sports because I'm a mom. So I don't know if that actually answers your question, but, that's kind of, I think, the biggest benefit for me. Plus, her little teammates know that they can come to me if they need something. I always have a little first aid kit, and despite the fact that they call me Nurse Jen or Dr. Jen, and I'm like, no, I'm an athletic trainer, and I try to explain that to them, like whatever. They're just like, can I have a Band-Aid? I'm like, yes.
Can I have some pre-wrap for my hair, please?
Yes.
Dylan.
The greatest honor is to be your kid's athletic trainer, honestly.
That's cool.
Greatest
honor. I'm not kidding you. To be able to be on the sidelines for your kids' events, there is nothing else like it. I'm not lying.
Okay, we're gonna,
because you can actually run out onto the field to look at the injuries, where the parents who are in the stands who do it shouldn't. So one of our live streamers, Dylan, he asked the question: do any of your kids want to go into the profession because of being around you guys? Tanya's shaking her head yes.
It's a great question.
Yeah, so Bree graduated this year, and she initially was going to go to into criminal investigation. She was going to be go into like forensics.
Yeah.
And then she decided after her first, I guess she's not even finished her first semester. But she missed sports, and so she's changed her major and is wanting to go into athletic training. So she's like, they don't get shot, and she's like, I don't want to get shot at. And I was like, I've never been shot at yet. So
unfortunately, there was some news this week that was contrary to that. That's unfortunate.
That's horrible.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
But also, you want to see blood coming out of alive people and not necessarily already past the scene.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Anybody else?
But so she's thinking about that. So
that's
hopefully that'll stick with it.
I don't think my kids have figured it out yet. I think.
Well, I mean, like,
What about
I
you?
mean, blood
Live
and
Charlie.
stuff like that don't really affect me because that's what I've been grown up around. But like, I don't know if I might go into like medical stuff because still a lot of that stuff is no.
It doesn't. Some of the stuff she doesn't like, but my basically my kids know how to close a wound.
It's a
But I
good
don't
skill.
think I'd like go into like professional. Right? No.
All right, that's all right. Your brother wants to play Major League Baseball, so there's that.
So,
Billy's 10. She doesn't know what she wants. It changes by the day. So,
Sure.
so
kinda-
here's a question. So you guys have all been in the profession double-digit years. So there are a lot of moms who have gotten out of the profession. Have you heard? I mean, what are you hearing? Why are the moms who are leaving the profession? What's the reason? What do you think?
The moms that I know that leave the profession struggle with finding a compromise in work and with your home life. And I don't know if it's, do they want to make a compromise? Are they willing to compromise? Or do they just expect to be given the freedom to do things? But I don't know that they were all that into trying to compromise. Yes, there are days I don't get to see her play. I didn't get to see her play her last football game of the season because we hosted a volleyball tournament.
Wait, no, you went to my last game.
No, your home game. And there are things that I just can't do because of my job. But then there are other days where I get to not leave their side at games. So it's a give and take. And I think a lot of the moms, the newer moms, aren't willing to try to be flexible or try to compromise with your work schedule to make it all work. I mean, that's what I see.
Yeah.
Right.
Jen, what do you hear?
Love it.
Or any thoughts?
I don't know. It's hard. Like, I know I would agree with some of the stuff that Abby said. And then I also know that other moms that I've seen on here have been like a part of like military families, and they have had to pick up and move because their spouse got deployed or something like that. And so then sometimes where they get deployed, there just weren't jobs available for them
Sure.
to do that. So they had to find something else. And then sometimes it's finances. Like, I mean, obviously COVID showed this as well, that like a lot of people either were furloughed, got out of the profession because they can make more money for it and support their family and not have to save somebody's life potentially. And I think it goes back to support again. Like, if your work isn't supporting you, I feel like my employer did a great job because they knew that in the positive light, stuff was going to start coming back. And they took the investment and invested in not only the athletic training staff, they invested in our campus rec staff and the faculty and staff at the university, knowing that I think if they would have furloughed all those people and then tried to go back and be like, oh, just kidding, time to hire you all back. Well, those places are going and trying to hire those people. Well, you weren't there for them when they needed you the most. So they went and found a different alternative.
Yep.
And so it's hard to get some of those people back, especially when the pay is better at these other jobs, or maybe the hours are better. So like that flexibility, that support, I think goes a long way, especially with whether you're an AT mom or an AT dad. That was one thing I was telling Abby. I was like, when she asked me to come on here, was like, she was like, oh, they want to talk to the AT moms. And I was like, well, does anybody talk to the AT dads and see, like, I mean, a lot of
Every
times,
week
like,
we talk to each other.
It's a stereotype that, like, oh, moms are doing all these things, but we kind of have to change it because, like, the dads are doing some stuff too. So,
Sure. We appreciate that.
But
Yeah.
We appreciate your little shout out there.
But we're just two guys, and we don't get the other perspective, so that's why we wanted to have this conversation, because
I don't know if
we know
you've
where we
gained
come
the
from, but we
mom's-
don't know
the
where
mom's
everyone else comes from.
superpower of knowing where everything's at, though, because like my daughter tells me that we have superpowers, because she'll be like, where's that one sock that I wore like 5 years ago? And I'm like, oh, it's like under the left side of the couch in the cushion. Like, what? How did you know that? I don't know. Like, it's just a thing.
Tanya, do you have any insight on maybe why moms that you know have left the profession? Or
I think, I mean, and I know when I was looking at, do I stay in the traditional setting? Do I go clinical? For me, it was the number of hours that was required at the traditional setting. When I was, and I know, in Texas, at the high school setting, and it's getting better in some of the bigger schools in the metroplex area, that have more than two athletic trainers. They have more flexibility, but in some of the smaller towns, like even here in Abilene, we've got three large high schools here in town, but they still only have two athletic trainers each. We've got three 5A high schools, and the 5A high schools only have two athletic trainers each. And so they're still working, and they've got between them, they've got one.
Sorry, what's an enrollment in a 5A?
Athletic trainer that kind of covers the middle schools.
How many athletes are you talking about in a 5A? Just for people across the country who,
or even just like how many kids are at the school?
If you had to guess, I mean, it doesn't have to be exact.
I want to say,
or even just how many at a school that's 5A.
Yeah. What do you think?
Is it like 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000? It's a small coliseum of kids. She's Googling.
Yeah, it's I'm Googling it. So
it's tough.
So let's see, so 5A enrollment's between 1,060 and 2,099 students.
Okay.
That's a big
that's
a big variant.
So that's our
so that's a big
That's a Division 1.
Yeah, that's a 5A.
That's Division 1.
Yeah, that's probably a Division 1 or 2 here, yeah.
In Wisconsin, that's Division 1. So that's as high as we go.
Yeah. So that's the 5A. That's the next to highest.
And you're saying a lot of those schools will have two.
6A is the highest.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, good.
So they've got two athletic trainers. Yeah. And so, I mean, those guys work, a ton. And so being being an AT parent, in that situation is hard. And so I had, when I was getting ready to decide, do I stay in that situation or do I go the clinical route? That was what I was looking at. Do I want to continue to work the 80-hour work weeks, or, do I want to go to the clinical route and work 40 to 45, and then maybe do outreach? And so that was where, that decision came into it. So I think that plays into it, is what setting can you get into, that'll support that. And then, and as Bree got older, then I was able to expand the contract that I had with the school that I was at, so that we were able to add more sports, and I was able to work more. So it went from being just a Friday night contract to, we added, Thursday night football, and then we added,
prime time,
basketball, and then we added, then we added, volleyball, and we added softball and baseball. And so, I was out there, a lot more. And so as she got older, I was able to work more. And so it's, I think, you have to decide, it's sacrifice. And that's with any working parent. I mean, there's sacrifice, and you have to decide. And it's any given day. Some days your family is going to sacrifice more. You sacrifice more for your family. Some days you're sacrificing more for your job. Some days you're sacrificing more for, it may be a 50-50. And it's a balancing act, regardless. And you have to decide on a daily basis where that give and take is. And, it's who gets it, who gets it today. There's only so much of you to give. And so, it's,
I love that you said
have
that.
to decide on which of the day, who gets what part of you that day.
Yeah.
And
I love that you said that. because the one thing I took from this conversation so far, and like listening to all three of you, is that you don't have to prioritize one thing all the time, right? Like, and I literally wrote down, there is no prioritized. It is a day-to-day like conversation. And so I think, whether or not somebody prioritizes on a given day that they have a volleyball tournament and they miss the football game, I mean, that's what that day brought, right? But that's okay, because on another day, you prioritize that your kid was at your work learning from you and getting to see something that most kids don't get to see. A lot of kids don't get to see their parents work. And I remember being a kid, and my mom was not an athletic trainer. She just worked at a store in a mall, but she would have to go in after hours and have to do things. And it was like the most fun time in the entire world, that I got to go to a mall with my mom after hours, and it was like I was a kid in a candy shop. And I think we also don't give our kids enough credit as athletic trainers, that they love that their parents love their
love
job,
us, yeah.
right? And they might actually love the fact that their parents get to take them to cool stuff. So kudos to you guys. I mean, I've learned a lot. I know, Chad, what else you got for him?
I got one more question and we can wrap it up. But so this will be fairly generic, I think. But if you guys, let's just like, for the people listening out there, if you have one piece of advice for somebody who might be getting into the profession, or or is in the profession and considering starting a family, like what's some advice for being an AT mom? Just one piece that maybe you can share.
Find the setting that works for you so you can have the best of both worlds. Have a good support system.
Mm-hmm. Abby stole the number one answer.
I would 100% agree. Yes. And I also wanted to say that I think Tanya should write a self-help book for athletic trainers, because she's full of wisdom. So.
Oh my God, yes.
Look at you.
I've enjoyed everything that you've said. So.
Jen's requesting to do the foreword, though. She's going to do the foreword on the inside cover of the book. Do you have any advice, Tanya?
I would just
I think. Go ahead.
No, I think it's all
no,
you.
you go ahead first.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say that, one of the biggest piece of advices I think that I ever got was actually when I was in the Army. It was from my first sergeant, and it was before I even knew that I was going to be an athletic trainer, but it's something that I've carried with me since I was 19. And, and it's so applicable to athletic training too. It's, things change on a daily basis, and you never know when you get up what the day is going to entail. And we have to go beyond being flexible, and you have to be fluid. I mean, your day is going to change. And so, and that was, he's like, and that was it. That was his saying, was you have to go beyond being flexible. You have to be fluid. And because you never know what you're going to get. You never know what is going to be thrown at you. Mm-hmm. And that goes with being a mom, being an athletic trainer. And I know Jen said, and there's something to be said about dads. I mean, dads are great and dads are wonderful, but being a mom is different. I mean, there are different expectations and there are different demands for moms than there are for dads. I mean, and it's just, society has just been that way forever, and it's not going to change. And, so being a working mom and being an athletic training mom is harder than being an athletic training dad. And it's just the way that it is. And so, if you're going to if you're going to do it, you've got to know that going into it, and you've got to know that it's going to be harder, but it's definitely worth it, because if you've got a passion for the career, your kids are going to see that, and they're going to see that you're passionate for it. And I think that's one of the things that I was able to instill in my daughter, is that I love my job. I loved my kids, all the kids that I took care of, and my kids that I took care of, all of my athletes know that I love them. Like, whether my kids at the school that I've been at for 3 months now know that I love them, or the kids that I had for 17 years. I'm passionate about what I do. And she has seen that, because she's been with me on the sidelines and has been with me, this whole time. And so I've been able to instill that work ethic in her, and been able to instill that, that sense of, just, when you do something, you put your all into it, and it's a career. It's not just a job. And so I think, if you're going to go into this profession, this is not one to take lightly. And so, I think that's just, the piece, biggest thing I would say is, following up on what Abby says, is find your niche, find your setting that you can flourish in, and your support group, because it, like Jen said, it takes a village. There's no way that, we could have done it alone.
Well, I couldn't wrap it up.
I would say, like, especially to, sorry, are you done? I didn't want to, like, cut you off.
Keep going.
For the students, I even saw recently on Twitter, one of the athletic trainers had said, he was asking people about, like, either what detoured or whatever, and a student was like, oh, I was told I can't have a family and be an athletic trainer. And I remember hearing that when I've been an athletic trainer for 17, 18 years, so then you have the 4 years of undergrad, whatever. So I remember hearing that 20 plus years ago and thinking, like, that's not right. Like, why can't it be done? Like, and so one thing I tell people is everybody's journey is different. So obviously there's going to be demands at certain levels of this job, like, depending on what you do, but you can all make it work. Like, it just kind of depends on your, like, if we've hit home, support system is, like, super important. But if it's what you love and it's what you want to do, like, don't let somebody detour you from doing the job that you love to do. And so I do understand kind of what that comment is saying, though, because I mean, I obviously had to make some changes in my life to be able to do athletic training and have a family. You got to strike that balance, but don't get out of the profession just because you think that somebody doesn't think you can, like, have a family and, like, do this job, because it is possible. 50% of athletic trainers are females. And that doesn't mean they all have to be moms, but a lot of them are moms, and they're at D1 settings and D2 settings and industrial and clinics and outreach and performing. Like, they're in everything.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you do have to find that niche that works best for you and for your family. But don't be deterred because one person told you, oh, you can't do it, or their way of thinking was just a little bit different than what yours was. So.
Dang. You guys all hit it, like, directly
home runs
on the head of the nail. You've inspired me. That's for damn sure.
Well, you just enlightened us. Like, we appreciate it. I think it's a good conversation to be had, and I'm sure there's more out there, but I mean, I think it's a good first.
So happy that we had all of you on. I think this was a wonderful episode. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Tanya. I think each one of you had, like, just such great different insight and just different ways of looking at the profession. And so I think hopefully everybody takes a lot of what you said, and they can continue to be athletic trainers as moms, as parents, because it's a great profession. And I think let's just keep spreading the word that AT moms rock.
Yeah.
That's great. Have them reach out. If people have questions, send them our way. I'm sure that between all of us, we can handle it for you. We can answer questions.
Appreciate it. Abby, I'm just
Absolutely.
looking.
More support systems, huh?
Yeah.
Like, look at this, you know?
ATs supporting ATs. That's what we need.
Heck yeah.
Not tearing it down.
Hashtag.
Great.
Abby, I'm sorry about the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight.
I don't like the.
Oh, you're not?
Cincinnati.
Oh, all
I'm in
right. I just didn't know if that was your basketball team.
No,
though.
my Bearcats lost, man. I don't even want to talk about it.
I was just gonna say the Bucks just put a whoop down on the Cavs tonight.
Bucks.
So
We
yeah.
don't have the NBA, man. We got the Bearcats.
Okay. All right. Well, on behalf of
Reds.
Kevin and myself, thanks Tanya, thanks Jen, thanks Abby. We do appreciate having you guys on. So I hope you have a good
Thanks for
night.
having
And thanks for joining us, and thanks
Thanks,
for
y'all.
everything. So
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
well, that was
All right.
fun.
That was amazing. You know, I'm gonna do a little outro music here. I'm gonna close this episode up. Seriously, that was a great conversation. Moms are badass. AT moms are badass. We have so much to learn from just having these kind of conversations, and so I think it was great. It was a good podcast.
We tried something different today.
So-
So hopefully you enjoyed it. So well,
I think we're gonna call it a night.
Yeah.
You know, thank you to all of our sponsors, Healthy Roster, Human Kinetics, Smart Tools, and thank you to the AT moms out there for making this possible. Abby, Jen, Tanya, you guys all rock. Have a great night.
all right guys, take care.
Bye.